What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune in to check out the content. And with that being said, man, Ja Morant is turning into a cautionary tale, right? And so I watched the clips of Ja Morant for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he had an argument. He was having an argument with Clay Thompson, right? And they're saying that some of the things he's saying, like he's a bum, he can't play anymore and stuff like that, which I thought was just proves that how immature and how delusional Ja Moran is, right? And you trying to be he's trying to be disrespectful to a guy who is definitely going into the Hall of Fame. Number one. Number two, this guy, Clay Thompson, is sitting on 4 championship rings. I don't know how many times they've been to the playoffs, but I know. Let me see. They won 4 championships. I think they lost 2, won 4, right? And he's going to call this guy a bum and say that he can't play no more. If and for some reason, Ja Morant just don't get it, and it might not. Ja Morant may not get it until after he's out the NBA, when he realized like what type of opportunities that he's throwing away. He's had his off the court issues a couple times where he's gotten suspended. Then he had issues with recently with the coach, where he said something and that caused him to get suspended. And I'm surprised. Like, I made a video before about the fact that like Ja Morant's father is in his life, and his father seems to want to act more like a one of his buddies or a friend of his than he do his father. Instead of pulling his coat and pulling him to the side, and telling him to get it together, and giving him some instructions, and being a leader more so than just his buddy. But this right here is just another example of Ja Morant not getting it, right? Not reading the room. He already on the bench. Now, I don't know, he's on the bench in a sweatsuit, not playing, and I just don't get it. Like I said, I just think that Ja Morant is going to be a cautionary tale, you know, um, and he's probably going to be one of the loudest advocates in the future talking about, don't waste this time. Take advantage of this opportunity. Don't be like me. When it don't have to go this way. You know, and I always said from the very beginning of Ja Morant's career, I always thought that Ja Morant, they wanted Ja Morant to be the face of the league, right? But I was like, he stays hurt, number one. Then number two, he goes for the spectacular play. He's not really somebody who is he's very talented, right? But he's not somebody who tries to get his teammates involved. He's more of a high volume shooter. And if you want to be a NBA champion and you want to be the face of the league, like they was trying to, some people say that they were trying to set Ja Morant up to be the face of the league. But he decided that he wanted to do other things and get, and go a different route, which is cool. If I think if you don't want that pressure of being the face of the league, then that's up to you, right? But then you still have to be somebody who represent the league in a positive way. You just can't. And a lot of people, as young people, get this wrong. Where they think that once you're off work, that you can, you can kind of sort of like do anything you want, because it's two separate things. But then once they hit him with that conduct detrimental to the league, then he realized that, off the court, you still are representing the NBA, and so you have a responsibility and a duty to, you could do whatever you want off the court, but make sure you're doing it by the book, number one. And make sure you're not doing something to make the league look bad. And that's the same thing. Those are the same things that like a parent will tell their kids, like, your last name is Morant. You're representing, once you're out into those streets, you're representing, the family. Don't be out there, doing something that's going to make everybody else look bad or put a bad light on the whole family. And that's a responsibility that, that all kids, all kids should have for their family. But evidently, he didn't learn that lesson, and that reflects in his style of play, like I said, because it's always just about Ja Morant when Ja Morant play. And if I don't know if Ja Morant just don't get it, but the NBA they're changing. Like, it's going back to, and I made a video about this. It's going back to like the old school way of playing. Like, they're going to be more team oriented. I know basketball is like it's a star driven league, right? And these guys get in that spotlight, Ja Morant, and think that it's about him, but it's not. It's about it's, even though it's a star driven league, it's about the team, and so um you have to develop skills that will enhance the teams. And so if you look at guys right now that are up for trade and that teams are trying to move away from, you got Ja Morant, who's one. I did a video about these guys. You got Ja Morant, that's one that's up for trade. That they got trade rumors. Then you got the guy LaMelo Ball. You have what's the Trey Young. And what these players have in common is they're very good basketball players, but they are not really team basketball players. High volume shooters. These guys stay injured. They don't play a style of basketball that that is conducive for winning basketball. None of those. Trey, I would say Trey Young. I think he's getting better because his assists are going up. He's getting more assists. But Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, it's all about hero ball one, and then what they call it, like, more so showboating than anything, right? Just want that spectacular play, when the real thing is learn how to play the game and learn how to win as a team, because you can't go anywhere. The NBA was cool, and the NBA was cool with letting these guys play that way, or would have been cool with letting these guys play that way if ticket sales was up, if viewership was up. Then it'll be, the NBA will, all right, well, that's what the fans want, then we can go with that. But that's not the case. You have ticket sales down, viewership, is down. So the fans really can't relate to that. It's a boring style of basketball. Either you're getting a dunk or you're shooting a three-pointer, no strategy to the game, you know, and that you really can't relate to that. Like, fans really can't relate to that. Like I said, it's boring, and that's not what draws the fans in, right? Like, if there's some type of strategy and teams are going back and forth, and then you're playing a certain style and you're trying to dictate your style onto the other team, and fans can kind of get involved in that, but like, fans really, it's boring. It's only so many ways you can dunk the ball, and and once you seen one three-pointer, you've seen them all and all this other stuff. But the strategy of the game is something that fans can really get involved in, and that's what that their emotional connection, like fans for the Memphis Grizzlies, they can follow that because it's an emotional ride that you're taking with your favorite athlete. You're taking that emotional ride with your favorite team, and that creates a more, in my opinion, a more loyal fan base, because you've been, you follow your team through the highs and the lows and stuff like that, and that's good for business. But these guys just coming in and shooting a three and trying to do a spectacular dunk, it's just boring. No strategy, and Ja Morant don't get it. A lot of these young players in this era don't get it. They think that, it's all about flash, style, without substance. And fans, even the fans, whether they know it or not, they get bored with just style and no substance. And that's what this guy is, just style with no substance. Clay Thompson even alluded to that. He said he would prefer for Ja Morant to be out on the court, doing his thing, but Ja Morant is doing other things that prevent him from being on the court. And so when you call somebody with 4 championship rings a bum and say he can't play no more, that just proves that you don't get it. And so that's my take on this, on a Ja Morant argument or disagreement with Clay Thompson. And with that being said, man, y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.